morning, church. Thank you for joining us today. Today is the letter R, and R is for Revelation, as in the last book of the Bible. And so for today, I invited my former professor, Greg Carey, who teaches New Testament at Lancaster Theological Seminary, to be with us and talk with us about Revelation. Greg just finished a Bible study that he was writing called Faithful and True, and it's a study for church members to read together about the book of Revelation. So thank you, Greg, for joining us today.
Always good to check in with you.
So last summer, Pastor Kim, my now retired colleague, and I preached a 6-week series on the book of Revelation. We had decided to do it like a year before and had put it down on the calendar. And then by the time we got to it, we both felt really anxious. Like, how are we going to talk about Revelation for 6 weeks? Like, what did we sign ourselves up for? I only had to preach 2 out of 6, and I was still just really anxious to spend that long in the book of Revelation. And I know friends and colleagues who also feel anxious about having to preach about Revelation. So can you tell us, Greg, what is it about Revelation? Why does it kind of freak us out like that?
I think there are 2 things about Revelation. One is the people who use Revelation, right? We all know the people who are reading the newspaper and saying, see, Revelation said that, and we know better, but we don't know enough to say how we know better. And then the second thing is Revelation's a very poetic, symbolic book. And as you pointed out, lots of even seminary-trained pastors don't know what to do with that kind of apocalyptic literature.
Yeah. So if my church folks were to learn one thing about Revelation from our conversation, what is the one thing they should know about that book of the Bible?
Well, Revelation is unique in the Bible, but it's also more like Paul's letters than we might think. And what I mean by that is it was written to churches, actual churches, to help them navigate how to be faithful in their own context. And so Revelation is about what it means to be faithful as a believer in a society you think is hostile. And it directly engages issues of political oppression, of justice, of idolatry, in ways that would be relevant to us if we could think about it as a first-century book rather than as a predictive book.
Great. So is it fair to say, Greg, that there are pieces of Revelation that speak to us, but it's also important to keep in mind that it was not written to us, but was written specifically to other people in a different time and context?
And isn't that true of the whole Bible? Right? I mean, if we learn how to read Revelation, we're reading it like we read the rest of the Bible. And part of what freaks preachers out and church people out is they think they have to read it like it's totally different. It's a little bit different. But when you kind of learn how it works, it can be really profound.
Wonderful. Thank you, Greg, for being here with us and shining a little light on a tough subject.
Thank you, Coley. Blessed Advent. We're proud of you at Lancaster.
Thanks.